All right, let's go ahead and start with something that you said on the podcast the other day. We opened up the hour talking about it, Tommy, and that is Bill's loosened, if not completely losing grip on the team, and maybe some of these players not taking him as seriously as they had in the past. You ran down some of the incidents that happened here in the off season and the camp. Where do you sort of stand with that? Is Bill's grip on the team something that is in peril right now?
I think in peril would be overstating it, but we're going from iron fist rule that was in large part reinforced by his strongest lieutenants, whether it be Brady or Edelman or Slater or Mayo or Wilfork or you name it, to a period of time where as the team declines in its ability and talent level and performance, Bill casts a wider net for what he will tolerate. Remember Urban Meyer quoting Bill a few years back at Ohio State saying, Bill Belichick told me he only wants to coach guys that he enjoys. I think that he has widened his scope, understanding that, well, I have to make some allowances for an Antonio Brown or a N'Keal Harry or a Christian Barmore or a Jack Jones to try and attain what I need. I don't have the safety net that is Tom Brady. And in so doing, means he has to swallow hard and tolerate things that he would not have done otherwise. And I think that's clear throughout what we've seen over the last few years. And when players see, and this was kind of the upshot I was making, Mego, is the upshot of that is when players see you making allowances, whether it be for Trent Brown or taking a year of their careers lightly by employing a defensive coordinator and a failed head coach in Joe Judge to run your offense, it's inevitable that the in Bill we trust among the team will slip a little bit.
Yeah, Tom, at the start there, you talked about lieutenants on the team who carried out Bill's word, essentially, and naming Tom Brady, Edelman, Wilfork, all these really, really talented guys. It's funny because of the way things ended, I think a lot of people constantly think of Belichick and Brady being at odds at the end and not at the beginning, or even the bulk of their work together. Mm-hmm. Who would you pick out on this roster as being a potential lieutenant that wasn't there for the Brady years? Who's going to carry that message out besides, Matthew Slater?
I would say Judon. Andrews tries to, but there's times when I think David Andrews has a hard time disguising his own dismay at the way things are headed. He's a player who, quite similar to Lawrence Guy, had an offer in hand, went out to find a better offer perhaps or shop, and came back and his offer was lessened. So there's points, I think, where David Andrews this place can be tough. But culturally, I think that Andrews, Judon, players like that who are talented help push forward the message. It's just that there's less connective tissue that brings the Patriots back to where they were. When Matt Judon says, hey, come play with us, no matter how talented he is, it does not carry the same amount of sway as when Tom Brady says it.
Does it have to be... Does it have to be the quarterback?
No, I don't think so. But it helps. Yeah, it helps. And it would help if the quarterback was coming off a good year instead of one that has him nearly beaten out by his backup. I think if Josh Allen says to somebody, I want you here, it might not mean as much as if, Patrick Mahomes says it, but both of them mean more than if Mac Jones says it.
You talked about exceptions getting made, Tommy Curran. Obviously, there's a big decision to be made here with Jack Jones. We found out that the news of Jack Jones getting arrested at Logan ruined the end of spring clam bake or whatever that they had with the coaches and everything. Where does the organization stand on Jack Jones and his status right now? Is it a wait-and-see situation? Are they leaning any particular way? Where is it right now?
Certainly seems to be a wait-and-see situation. Any entreaties that I've made this week to try and gauge the pulse of the team have kind of been rebuffed. I think that they are very much in bunker mentality. No statements made, whether of support or disgust. So it does mean they're going to have to toe an interesting line at the beginning of camp. If he's not suspended by the team, you basically need to put him on the field for that period of time. And that's another interesting thing in terms of the line that Bill has to toe is if Bill or Robert Kraft said, I don't want to see him out on the field until this is resolved, I'm not comfortable with it, then I think players would feel, well, are you doing the best for us? He didn't get found guilty of anything. He has an explanation. You've heard the explanation. Don't put him in limbo. Take him off the field or take him off the team. So Bill, again, has to really walk a fine line between doing what's good for the team and doing what's good for the brand. And I think that when we look at Trent Brown showing up and unable to finish the drills at all that he was asked to do, when you see a holdout, when you see the Jack Jones situation, when you see the close to the 2022 season, when you see Mac Jones going outside the team for counsel and outwardly showing up the team, I think Bill's, and this was kind of what I was driving at in the podcast as well, Christian, was it chisels away at Bill's authority to a point that we've never seen it with this team.
You said that they've been in bunker mode right now, which is understandable given the way that everything played out on Friday. But you've also said that Trent Brown, the way that he showed up to minicamp late, seemingly out of shape, unable to participate in drills, that's a direct affront to the other guys in his unit and the other guys playing the positions around him. It's disrespectful, which I think is really smart. Do you get the sense that the team would feel the same way about what Jack Jones did, even if it's just carelessness or total cluelessness, that it's somehow disrespectful to the rest of the defense that he was careless at the very least?
Yeah, I think so, but that's and that's where I would say there's probably a big difference. To get as big as Trent Brown got and to be in that bad of shape is premeditated over several months by a 30-something-year-old individual who definitely knows better and just said, F it. With Jack Jones, younger, just in exchanging texts briefly with Devin McCourty this week, he said he's a good kid. He just really tough environment that he came up in. And he didn't say this. I should not paraphrase that way, but just indicating he did say, tough upbringing, very good kid, well-liked. It's just more of probably a feeling of you got to get it right, kid, as opposed to the disgust that you would feel with someone like Trent Brown if you were a teammate and colleague. Interestingly, I think we've all seen this too, and I remember this happening with the Patriots. There's occasions, and Terry Glenn was a perfect example of it back in the day. He was such a pain in the ass that he was kind of ostracized by teammates like Willie McGinnis, who I remember him complaining about, he's sitting out with the sniffles, talking about Terry Glenn. Then there's guys who have the favor of their teammates and are seen as sympathetic characters where if the team punishes them in any way, it would seem to be something out of the ordinary, like, the way they rallied to Jacoby Myers, as opposed to, looking at Antonio Brown. It would be vastly different because of who they are and what they're about relative to the team.
All right, we couldn't let you go, Tommy, without another DeAndre Hopkins question. It sounds like there's been an offer made. It sounds like, he's mulling it over along with an offer from the Tennessee Titans. It looks to me like he's just waiting for another better offer to come around. I guess the question is, will another better offer come around? Do you think the Patriots could end up getting them?
I do think they could end up getting them, and I feel as if there's probably just as much truth to the notion that he's going to slow play it until training camp and then decide, I'll show up to camp, but I'm only taking part in. I'm going to ease myself in here. These guys don't want to run around in July 25th, when camp opens, and he would be certainly one of them. Again, that's some place where you're going to have to, if you're Bill Belichick, swallow hard and make an allowance for an individual who maybe a few years ago you'd say, no, our way or the highway, you're going to practice. Can they do that with DeAndre Hopkins? So these are all the allowances that Bill has to make, whether it be Trent Brown or Jack Jones or DeAndre Hopkins' practice habits, and say these are the things that we need and want, or, we're going to have to tolerate it until we're good again.
All right, well, then we'll leave it right there. Tommy Curran, thanks so much for the time. Always great to talk with you. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk with you next Thursday, I believe.
Have the best weekend on record. Mego, you especially.
Oh, thanks, Tommy.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You know what? I hope your weekend's not as good now, Tommy.
Stop
Thanks
it.
very much.
There
you go.
No fighting. You stop that.
Tommy Curran
Stop
joining
that.
us here.
It's a nice Friday afternoon.
NBC Sports Boston. Well, why do you have to put that little part at the end?